Okay, today we are going to make the last thing I think we need before we start making books. We are going to make what I call a punching jig. That's not what other humans call it, but that's what I call it. And it's basically the thing that holds your book in place while you punch it with holes with an awl. And it basically makes these little ends of your signatures here look like these ones with little holes punched in them, so you can sew it all together. You don't poke the thing through. It would work this way it would be a disaster. So you pre-punch all the holes and then sew everything together. And in order to hold the book steady, to hold the signature steady for the hole punching, we make a little trolley. Now this one is going to be big enough for this kind of a book, which is an A4 sheet folded in half, put together into a book. It's going to be able to sit in there with enough room on either side so that the holes can be punched. You'll see what I mean as we go. We're going to make a pretty one, hopefully, but they don't have to be. Mine was put together very quickly, was a bit unsure of what I was doing. Cardboard, tape, it works fine, but it was ugly to the point that as we are currently moving, it got thrown out by someone who thought it was just garbage. This one hopefully should be a bit nicer. To start, we need to make the base of it, which is basically like the sides of the box. And I want to do them about 7 centimeters high. We get 2 nice sides of 7 centimeters. And then we get one that's a little bit bigger, which will be good. I'm going to do it this way just to get a better angle. Mark out 7. And I always do 3 because if the 3 don't line up very closely, I know that I am wildly off with one of them. In this case, dot, 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 they line up pretty much perfectly. And I am going to, rather than cut right away, I'll do a line there, and then I'll cut. Now the first cut, nice and light, knife straight up and down, concentrate on holding that ruler nice and still. The second cut, you follow the groove. Sometimes that'll be through the board, but usually the third one, you'll feel the difference. It'll be kind of a softer, if you're using a mat like this, a softer feel and not so much kind of raspiness. And it comes apart right like that. Again, sharp blade, very important. You do not want to try doing this with a dull blade. It'll just tear things and wander back and forth and be a pain. I'm going to number these 1 and 2 so I don't accidentally use the one that's a little bit bigger, because we have different plans in store for that. Straight up, nice and light on the first pass. A little more pressure on that one. You can start to feel the difference. Third one just feels different to the blade. These are very close match. That will do the trick. We're going to have kind of a cradle on the top like this, and we want this to be able to fit in there. So what I am going to do is measure out more or less the size of this book. We'll give it a little bit extra and drop that down there. In order to make sure that it's a nice straight cut, I will line this up. Now, when you have the ruler this way, and it's just a short piece of card, it can wobble around quite a bit. So I like to lay my hand, palm of my hand down on there, and then my fingers down on here, so the whole thing kind of functions more like a unit. And I go a little bit extra light on the cuts. Yeah, see here, I'll need 4 just to finish up that end. And that just keeps it from getting all wobbly, causing me problems. Now, because this needs to be the same length, same thing, palm down, and I'm going to cut these pieces. These are the 2 long walls. What I'm going to do is mark off where that is, but I want it to be higher than that. So I'm going to want it to be about that much higher, I think. So I'm going to leave that ending there. Put a line down. Now, rather than do this side where there's not room for my palm, I'm going to flip it over here, get my palm down in there, keep everything stable. And if at any point it starts to get hard to cut without there being tearing or that kind of thing, I know it's time to change the blade. As soon as it's at all resisting me, that blade's got to go. So I'm making a second one now. Label this 3 and this 4 so I know which pieces to keep. Flip it for traction. And straight and nice and light. You don't want your thumb poking over anything where this could slip and cut. You don't want anything in that trail that you want to remain attached to. You see how it slid there? We don't want that. So I was pushing a little bit too hard on the knife, maybe not enough on the rest of it. So lighten up on the knife, do a couple of extra passes, no problem. All right. Now these pieces will come together as the bottom, and I will show you briefly how they will go. Okay, and all these tapes are 4s. They're just so I can kind of throw this together and show you. This little kit goes together like this. You can see the ends stick up a little bit. And then we're going to put pieces in that sit in a V on top of it. Now, looking at it now, it probably didn't need to be 7 centimeters high. That might be a little bit high. It won't hurt anything, but it's higher than I need it to be. I also want to make it so that it will flatten out like that. And then I can pop it out this way for transport. Okay, so our sides and ends. Last thing we need to do as far as cutting goes is the pieces that go end to end along there. So this width or bigger will work, since it's nice if it all can lay together in one little nice bundle. And I'm going to make it the same width. And if it's not big enough, I make one a little wider later. Not a big deal. Now this one, however, will be the full length of this board. It looks like I have a little bit, not quite in a right angle on that one, but very, very close, so I'm not worried about it. We need 2 of these. That's 5 and that's 6. All right. 6 pieces should be all we need to make our little jig. Then the only tricky bit will be covering it so it looks nice. And my brain is kind of working on that as I work at cutting it up. So a nice long light piece. We've got a fair bit of surface area down, so it shouldn't be sliding too much. You can actually put a little piece of masking tape down in a couple of places to hold it in one spot if you find that your knife work is wiggling around or sliding like this. It's nice. Or if you just want something super precise and you're a patient soul, then you can do that as well. I'm hearing my knife might not be too far from the new blade. Go. We'll hold on there for a little bit. It's okay for the moment. Now, maybe that far in, you know what? I'm going to use this to make sure it's nice and straight and centered. So I have 4 centimeters there. 1, 2, 3, 4 centimeters there. About. We're going to do that. Now, what I'm doing now might not make sense to you, but if you're patient with me for a little bit, keep watching. We want exactly a board's width here, plus a few layers of book cloth. So I'm going to get a board's width and then smudge it over. Do a line there. Cap it where that first line was. Same thing on this side, but the other way. So a little bit of paper. Okay, we'll cut this one and then decide whether we got it right or not before we cut the next one. So, right there, and again, nice little soft one, and gradually more. There, that felt very different, but obviously it won't come apart because it's attached. Just peek on the back. You can see it's all the way through. And then do the same one for this other side of it. I'm just going to take the tip, poke it, and this should come apart more or less cleanly. Okay, so we might need to widen that a little bit for once it's wrapped for the thickness of the paper, but we might want that tight fit. So because we might want that tight fit, we are going to leave it as it is for the moment. Now I don't have a lot of palm down on this, but I want to cut it right-handed. So I will be nice and gentle with my cuts and just do more if necessary. Can cut left-handed. Some people have noticed I write left-handed sometimes on my other videos, but I am dominantly right-handed. You write in languages that go right to left. It's nice to be able to write left-handed, and you understand how left-handed people feel when they're writing English or French or German where they're going the direction that their hand wants to smear everything. So if you're Hebrew or Arabic and you're left-handed, you're golden. All right. Let us make our other one now. Oops. Don't want to go too far under there. All right. It won't take very long and you'll get a feel for the knife. I even ooh, that was a nice smooth feel there, so we know we're done. I prefer this kind of chunkier one to the little thin one I have for long cuts. I think it just, because it doesn't bend so much, you don't get that thin little line that you can sometimes get on the smaller knife that's just, I think it's 8 millimeters wide. Make a little mark here so I know how far I'm going. And again, this one I don't have a ton of grip, so I'm going a bit lighter, though in truth, once you have that initial groove, you can usually, if you're careful with it, just follow that groove. And you don't need the straight edge after the first cut, or maybe two. So if I do this cut, and I've got that little trench there now, it will, with a bit of care, just follow that trench down as it goes there. And you'll feel when it hits that soft vinyl or plastic or whatever that is. Vinyl might even be a kind of plastic, if I had to guess. And pull that off of there. Now, that's pretty nice. Just to see if we have the right kind of fit. Pretty tight. So it sits like this. And let's get this lined up. So when it's done, it will kind of look like that. Papers go in there, you get the awl and punch, 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 punch. So now we need to assemble it. And to assemble it, I think I'm just going to use this gray paper. So let's first paper these. We want a little bit of fold over space on either side. Let's call it one of these thick rulers worth. We need both of these, and then we need kind of a fold over space as well on that to there. So assuming everything is all squared up nice, which is not always a good assumption to make. always an accurate assumption anyway. All right. Very sharp pen and book cloth sometimes don't play well together. Book cloth can be tricky too because cutting with scissors doesn't always get you the straightest of cuts. Cutting with a razor and a straight edge is better, but sometimes the threads kind of come off in the cut and you don't get a really clean cut. So I'm debating which to use here. I think because it's kind of folded over, and I'll aim to hide it a little bit, what I will do is the scissors for this one. So let's give this a shot. Very cloudy, rainy day here today, so the light isn't as good as it could be. But hopefully that's all right. We'll be out at the island again soon, and when we're there, it will be a bit brighter. Okay. All right, just one thread. Oh, there we go. So for now, we'll get you out of the way and have a look here. I messed that up. I did it as if I'm gonna wrap one. I need to do it as if I'm gonna wrap two, but you know what? I think I'm going to glue this one on, and then I'll do one that goes right around the edges there on the other side. Yes, I have a plan. This will work. So what I want to do is glue these two up. So of course, glue, glue, glue. There's always a ton of glue used in this. I'll put a little here, even though I might just be able to sandwich these two and get it done. Little nylon brush, my favorite for this kind of thing. I highly recommend it. If you don't have any of this stuff and you want to easily find it, go to the what tools I need or what materials I need videos, and there are links there to the ones that I use. There are other great ones as well, but I only really know the ones that I use. So if you want to find them, that's where they are. Good prices too. I don't like to spend a ton on this stuff if I can help it, because why spend more when you can spend less for something just as good? A better quality, worth it. Same quality, save your pennies. All right. So that is that one. Oops. Ah. Trying not to get glue on myself, and in so doing, I got a lot of of glue on myself. Okay. What's going on there? All right. Get him in the safe place. Now, blending these well, we just need to make sure they've got a nice border around them. Because these will be folding the other way, they don't need a gap in the middle because they're folding this way. So I can tighten those right up like so. And then a little bit of glue on the edges. Now this will be kind of folded under, but when it comes to this book cloth and glue, be as careful as you can because it really shows on the book cloth if you've been sloppy with the glue. The paper will keep it from coming through, but I mean around on the edges mainly. Okay, so the ends, I'm going to fold those first. Make sure this is pretty close to right together. Fold those over. And down on the edge a little bit. Go. Now this one I'm going to fold just in a little bit. I'm going to cut that piece right off. And place for it over there. So as if straight across, but in a wee tiny bit. Trust me, if you get glue on anything, something you don't want to find it will find it. Murphy's Law of Bookbinding. It's amazing how I can cut with perfect accuracy to leave one thread hanging on. Okay. Now, I want to tuck in these little bits and lift this to fold it. And the ruler folding it just helps to do it kind of all at once when it's small like that. Press it down. You can use your bone folder for that if you want. I am going to find this little bit here that's not very gluey. Glue it up a bit more and get that nice and stuck down. I think get a little more glue on hand. I underglued that edge, I think. We don't want it to be sloppy, but we do want it to be quite tight fitting. Better to have a little bit of over gluing, especially since it'll be covered in this case, than under gluing and have it come apart. Function over style, but both if you can get them. I think it was William Morris, that famous British designer, who said everything in your house should be beautiful or useful, and ideally it should be both. Okay, so this side needs more glue. It's been sitting there for a bit, and I think it's too dry. So put it on this side, down there, make sure I get to the edge there. Got some glue on this ruler, but it just comes off there super easily. Same with this bone folder. Any glue that's on there, I can slide it out of the way and then just go like that in a few minutes and it will come right off. So if I'm in a spot and I need to glue and I don't have my wax paper handy, those are my stand-ins. Okay, now I pull it all over nice and tight like this. Make sure that the ends are glued tight. Now I'm going to bring in one of my helpers, which I highly recommend you have. I'm going to take the smooth side and just drop it on there for a little bit. And by a little bit, I mean 2 minutes. So I'll see you in 2 minutes. All right, I think our 2 minutes are over. The glue hasn't even dried there, although I did give this a wipe. Let us see how this is done. So this is what it'll look like, and it'll fold up like that once we cut these pieces out, which I think I'm going to attempt to do right now. So it's nice and light. You can hear when it's going, when it's cutting the threads, and then all of a sudden it'll be smooth. Only problem it's having is right in there at the ends. I don't know if you can hear our cackling passersby outside, but they are enjoying their evening. Okay. Let's have a look. So it looks really rough on this side, but I think what we can do is loop the scissors underneath and just snip off that end and snip off that end. Any little bits that we can find that we need to get rid of, we can get rid of those. And then we brown. Let's see if we can do the same this side. Ooh, tougher to get in there. There we go. Got my even if it looks rough. As I said, my other one was mistaken for trash. Such a loyal tool as well. But its legacy survives. Let me see here. Now there's a very real possibility when I start using it that these bits here will get rough and kind of scraggly. If they do, then what I will do is I'll just make a little patch that will go over it, something like that. Glue it down, it might, however far it needs to go to glue well, and that'll just reinforce it. But we'll wait until we have the problem before we solve the problem. Ideally, we get this thing to bend. The problem we're having is here we don't want to cut all the way through here to the bottom one, but we do want the top one. You know what? If I put the knife like this, you see this little edge? It'll prevent it from going right to the bottom. So I can push a little harder. There we go. See if we can do the same on this end. Yeah, there we go. So, there. Nice little cradle. That's where the book will sit. And we'll be able to clunk, 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 clunk. The signature. I keep saying the book, but I just mean the signature at this point. So, one more thing I need to do for this side is I need to make a piece that goes over the back here. So, I need one that is 13.5. So I'm just going to make a little note here, 13.5 by 29, I'm going to call it, centimeters. All right, one last thing. This bit is not sticking down even after the weight, so that tells me there's not glue on this end. So let's glue them up. This one had a little bit, but give them a little extra, these corners. There we go. All right. So this is drying, it's folding well. We just need to make the back for it. Now, I could do the back in a different color and get fancy, but truth be known, I am just going to try and do it all out of the gray because the gray's here. Might as well use it. I am going to cut this off just to keep things square, and this might be what I use for patches if I find I need them. See, this is what happens with the knife. It cuts fine until you get to the edge, and then it pulls those last couple threads out. Whereas the scissors, or any kind of shears, will take that off without doing that. So, kind of prefer these, even though these are straighter. So, I need 13.5 centimeters this way. I just realized something. I'm going to be folding this over. So I might want 14. So I need the 13.5 plus whatever this gap is. And let's say, to be generous, we'll give it a half. Yep, I'm going to call that 14. And that way it won't be under any stress when it's open. When it folds together, it'll have a little bit of extra room there for comfort. So along this line, it needs to be 29, and there are no folds or anything, so we don't need to worry about that. Get to 29, so again, I have to be so light with this pen on the book cloth or it pops through. When I write, sometimes I like to write really small. These pens from Korea are really good for that, if I'm doing artwork and it's really small. How many do I? All right. Now, nice, unrushed, precision cut. Scissors, a little far there. I try not to because I might need that for something else, but a little cut like that won't cause any wastage. Probably won't even notice it. Now again, this is where the straightness is sacrificed a little bit for the cleanness of the cut. But you will see in a moment what I'm going for. So that will go over there, but folded like so. So what I want to do is, instead of gluing up this side this time, that pesky corner that won't behave, I'm going to glue up this, but I'm going to throw this underneath just to keep it from getting everywhere. There we go. Now I'm hoping I didn't get any glue on the other side of this one, but I got a wee bit on the edge there. Not too worried about it. Now, because I'm gluing this down and I want it to be able to fold, and I gave it that extra space, see how it's slid up now? Okay, so we have this thing folded right in half. I pressed it under that stone for a while, and it should be ready to go, except you need to cut. We need to cut the other side of these little slots. So let's see how well we can get this going. Hopefully this will do the trick. This is going to be a longish video. Oof, it doesn't like going flat very much. But this is a tool that is going to be with you for a long time. And the nicer you can make it, the more pleasure you get out of using it while you're bookbinding. That's kind of the whole point of it. Sure, you get nice books out of the end of it, but the satisfaction you have from making your own journals and other things like that will really be the true treasure of this whole operation. All right, we are I think here it just pulled it over, so I'm going to try to get in there with the scissors. Come on. There we go. Get that chopped off. Okay. That is our little cradle bit, and when we want to move it around, fold it up, boom, the other part will go plunk on top of it, and it'll be off moving. So that'll do. That'll do the trick. So let's set you over there, and let's look at what we need to get this one going. All right, so we're gonna need a piece twice as high as this and twice as long as this. With that a little bit. Yep, this will do it. What I'm going to do then, we want it to be a little more than twice as high. So we're gonna do our old ruler trick. That'll be the amount of overlap we get minus a couple of widths there. I didn't want to do a bit more than that. We shall see. Right. It's one of those long. This will be 2. This will be 3. So I think I will just go right to the end with it. And we will potentially overlap that last little bit. There we go. Because it's folded under, I'm going to go with the scissors for this cut. Okay. The extra length on this too will be good because remember, I want it to be able to fold down flat. So I'll want to use some extra space on it. And I think the corners not being kind of pressed tight together won't be any problem because the cradle on top should hold everything solidly together. There we go. So this is for another project. It's a good height too. We got a couple of books out of that yet. Start laying this one out. Now, we can lay it more or less in the middle. When we fold this over, it'll overlap. Our seam will be somewhere in the middle on the inside. That's how I want it. I want a good amount there. Do I want the seam on the end here or here? I think here. That'll be good. So we know there's overlap. We'll do that. I want a good kind of regular distance from the end, so I'm going to do these 2 rulers. line it up straight with that. That's where, straight with that. And that's where I'm going to glue it. Right about there. So let's just jump in. Get some glue on there. We want to be fairly generous with it, although once it wraps around, it will be any little bit of glue sticking almost anywhere will anchor it down, and then the folds and the wraparound of the paper of the cloth should hold it in place. All right. Give a decent amount there for fold over. Right there. Ooh, slippery. Yeah, that'll work. Now I think I'm going to use about that much gap in between, because I want it to be able to wrap right around at the end. So I'm going to need about 4 millimeters, because this is 2 millimeters thick and it's going to need to go over 2 of them when folded. I'm going to do about there. How close is that to half a centimeter? Yep, that's about right. So same thing. I'm going to use this not only as a straight edge, but it'll also help me gauge that 5 millimeter gap very accurately. Don't know why that's sticking up so much, but I'm going to set something on it to hold it down. This is little letter punches. It's quite hefty, so I'll hold that down really solid. Okay. That is a lot of glue. Tricks for it though. Wipe the excess off on the next board we're going to do. Now the piece that I am doing now, the piece down there, that's the outside. This will be the inside. The reason being is if you glue the insides and then try and fold it around the outside, it's not going to reach because it won't have the same perimeter. If you follow me, if we do it around the outside, then the inside you'll actually have a little extra. You tuck it into the corners. Nice little 5 mil gap there. Tuck that in like so. Good. Now, why is this not wanting to stick? Let's get this one on there though. And the attitude to have when you're doing stuff like this, in my opinion, is to be okay with errors and mistakes. Don't let it stress you out. We always see on YouTube the final finished product with people practicing things off screen or editing them out. And we all do that a little bit just for video length sometimes even, so it doesn't get too huge. But what that does to us is it makes us see these other people like they never make errors and everything they do works out for them. It's one of the curses of social media is we only see everyone at their best. And we think that's supposed to be the regular state of affairs. It's not. We learn more from those things we mess up anyway. All right, I'm not too worried about these coming up a little bit because as soon as we start folding over, the bottom bit there. And then we'll be in good shape now. Should I glue it there? Glue it there. I think I'm going to glue it down at this end. There's kind of more space. So I'll keep this coming down. Now I've done this so that it can fold either way, rather than just folding one way and then not having any movement to fold this way. Because I know myself. If I'm in a hurry and I go to fold it up, these big paws of mine would wreck it if I go the wrong way and wind up bending the cardboard or something like that and just making it lose its rigidity. And I want it to stay strong, so I'll make it an ambidextrous fold down. All right. A little heavy on the glue here as well. I'm going to put it there because we'll need that soon. When you're gluing the textured side, so this side of the book cloth together, you're going to need a lot more glue than when you're doing this one, just because it has those contours and little gaps and holes in it. Now, one problem I'm going to have is kind of tying this together. I wonder if I should just let it dry first. I probably should. It goes against all the impatient bones in my body. But I should probably weight it down a little bit. Let it stick and revisit it in a little while. So for me, little break, little delay. For you, be back in 2 seconds. Okay, so this has been sitting for a little while. You can see it's still a bit, glued my ruler down. Still a bit wet here, tacky, but that'll mean it'll be pretty sticky under there. Now I realized while I was waiting that this end and this end can't both have this big chunk of paper on it. So I am going to take it off of which end? This end's the smaller one. Take it off this end, I think. There we go. And now it should be able to wrap together like this. I'll glue that end onto there. So let us first get this book cloth used to folding where we want it to fold, more or less. The cloth is ready to fold, but the paper is a bit rigid, so once you crease the paper, then it's ready to go. There. Now we just need to glue. I'm not going to be able to show this on film very well, but we're just going to glue this together so that the cardboard inside lines up. So actually maybe I will be able to film this because I just need to do that, I think. So this whole side needs to be pretty liberally glued. So this brush was sitting for about 10 minutes with glue on it, and it's still just fine to use. Okay, going almost up to the edge, and when I flatten this down, any kind of loose glue that's in here will squeeze out a bit, but I don't want a lot to squeeze out because that gets ugly. Okay. So we have the little ends that are a little bit higher. They're both on this side. And then this is the bottom. So let's fold in the bottom now. Try and do it kind of all at once. Fold it down. What we don't want is to move the cardboard. So I'm hoping I let it dry long enough. Just kind of, once it gets on there, you can just kind of roll it down like that. It's quite satisfying. Once you start doing book covers, you'll be able to do something similar. Now, the perimeter on the inside of these boards is slightly less than the outside. So you're gonna have kind of bunched bits. I'm gonna try and bunch them up in the corners. If I press the board down, then I can really push this book cloth and it won't move the board. I can do each side like that. Get it nice and snug up to the board without wrecking anything. And this final end. I think those boards will, that cradle will hold these boards together quite nicely. Yeah, and we are easily going to have enough fold over to cover up any problems. So let's wrap this thing up. We are close. And then this little gizmo will be a pleasure to use while you're bookbinding. A little bit of creative pleasure in your tools goes a long, long way. Just makes life a little bit more enjoyable. Okay. Now we are very, very close to the end. Let's get these, I think actually, let's do the ends first. And the long bits will kind of go on their own. You will notice at the ends that it doesn't fit quite perfectly. That is by design. You will see why shortly. We do want this little shoulder. It should fold down flat in both directions. Should have a little shoulder here. The way it really works. So these go in. Tidy that up after. Now those little shoulders on the top wall, this fits right in those little shoulders. See how nice that fit is? And what that does is when there's pressure down here, which there's going to be, these little shoulders keep it from snapping shut like alligator jaws. You can take your paper like this, and you're all like this, and you can make some holes. Now, where to make those holes, I will show you in the video shortly. You will get holes in here. That's what it's for. Don't worry about it. That's perfect. And when you are ready to move, doing this in a cafe at your great aunt's house or whatever, you need to move, it will fold up like that, fold up like that, and off you go. I'm pretty happy with that. By the way, if this had none of this book cloth on it, just duct tape together pieces of cardboard, it would still work. It would still function just perfectly. This is just made to be a little more pleasant and YouTube worthy. We'll see you next time.